All right, so we are live. We're starting our broadcasting process. We're just about a minute early. And what we're going to do is as people start to kind of come on is we're going to have Dr. Beverly. Dr. Beverly, could you wave for us? That's Dr. Beverly. I'm Dr. Healy. Oh, there's my hand. It was virtually hidden by the ocean. We're going to have people starting to join us soon. So she's just going to do a little bit of an intro about some of the features of Zoom for those of you who aren't so familiar with it. And I'm going to be giving you the presentation myself. So what I'm going to do right now is a screen share, but we're going to come back on so you can see our faces in just a second, okay? So I'm going to show you a little bit about the PowerPoint. Dr. Beverly's going to do some explanations. Here we go.
All right, well, welcome to the seminar. For those of you who are new to Zoom or it's been a while since you've Zoomed, you can see on our schedule, on our screen here, how to use the chat feature. That's what we're going to do to communicate with you. If you have any questions or you want to make a comment on one of the slides, what Dr. Jean's talking about, feel free to click the little chat button. You'll find it at the bottom of your screen, and type in your message and hit enter, and we will answer your questions as soon as we can. We will try to get to everybody. Midway through the seminar, we are also going to have our panelists, myself included, kind of reach out to you, see how things are going, see if you would like a consultation. We're going to be offering that, a free consultation, for anybody who wants to take this information and speak with us and see how that helps you. And with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and turn the seminar over to Dr. Jean. He's, like me, a licensed acupuncture physician. He's also the founder and owner of Root Healing Wellness. And he has some good information to share with you today. So Dr. Jean, take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to actually quickly show you. I'm going to stop the share just for a second so you can see me a little bit bigger. And the attendees are starting to come on, so people are starting to participate. Hello, everybody out there. So if you don't know how to do the chat feature, we just talked about it. You can just kind of put your mouse down to the bottom and it'll pop up. It says chat. If anybody feels motivated, why don't you just say hi? Just say hi to let us know that you know how to use the actual chat feature. So go ahead and type a message and let us know. For example, if I type a message right now, you're going to see it on the chat feature. I just said hi, and that went to everybody. Okay, there we go. All right, here we go, Terry. You're saying hello, so that's great. Amy said hello. It's very good to hear from you. All right, here we go, Kathleen. So everybody knows how to use that, and that's the way that you can communicate with us most effectively and efficiently. So when you need to ask questions, please just go ahead and chat, and that'll make it a wonderful collaborative dialogue, which is what I want. All right, great. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation again today, and that way I'm going to share the screen, and we're really excited to talk about all this wonderful information we have prepared for you, specifically on inflammation. So, reversing inflammation. As Dr. Beverly said, Dr. Beverly is one of the wonderful doctors here. I didn't tell you much about her, but Dr. Beverly, she is an acupuncture physician, a doctor of Oriental medicine. She's very accomplished, not only professionally, but also in sports. She's a world-class dragon boat racer, and we're very proud of her physical accomplishments in that regard too. But we have this wonderful picture showing this inner fire that some of us experience. Are we inflamed, and do we even know becomes a real question. Do you even know if you have inflammation in your body? I want to make 3 promises to you today. We want to do what we can to help you beat the odds. So can anybody give you 100% in life? Can anybody say that you'll never get into a car accident, that you'll never have any heartache in your life? Nobody can give you those odds. But what we can do is we can control certain things. For example, inflammation, we know, is one of the leading causes of almost every disease. None of you, I bet, if anybody's out there that has their inflammatory markers checked, go ahead and put it up there. Say, hey, I'm getting mine checked, and then I'll ask you some specifics to see how precise they're being. But most people have no idea. They just know they're inflamed, but they don't know how much, and they have no way to monitor how their inflammation is doing, if it's decreasing, if the things you're doing in your life are actually helping you. So I want to help you beat the odds. I want to provide you with great information, and I do want to give you a chance to do something about it. So we're going to talk about this consultation opportunity later. So our purpose, what we try to do here at Root Healing Wellness, is we are committed to getting at the root of your medical condition so you can heal without the need for drugs or surgery. How many of you out there are tired of our three basic options now? It's become shots, pills, and surgery. Isn't that an unsatisfactory option at this point? Don't you want something more? Don't you know in your heart that you can heal? Don't you want somebody to talk to you about the cause of your condition, not just give you Band-Aids? Hey, that's me. So this is a picture of me in Cambodia. I'm going to do a little bit of a share, kind of tell you a little bit about my history so you can kind of understand who's presenting to you today. This is a picture of me doing acupuncture in Cambodia. When I was a young man, I was in college and I was dissatisfied, kind of like most of you were, and I was looking for answers. Many of you on this webinar now are looking for answers. I was searching for a way to get the root of our problems as human beings. I was fed up with our options in healthcare being only shots, pills, and surgery. So don't get me wrong, sometimes those solutions are necessary and they've saved millions of lives, but they don't work for chronic disease and inflammation. I was looking for a holistic solution that included the body, mind, and medicine, and everything changed when I realized that what I wanted was to find a path to what I call true healing, something that I think all of you out there know does exist. I lived in South Korea as a young boy because my dad was in the military, and my searching led me back there after college. In South Korea, I started studying things like meditation, martial arts, yoga. I spent a lot of time in temples and actually studying with monks. I even contemplated becoming a monk for about 2 decades, 20 years of my life. I was also introduced to acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine. I came back to the States to become a doctor of Oriental medicine, but something in me still had more to study in Asia. I've lived there about 18 years of my life, and I've treated patients in 8 countries around the world. This particular country that you see is a picture of Cambodia. But I'm not saying that one country or one medical system is better. Actually, I realize that in America, we have these wonderful advances happening in the field of functional medicine. We're going to talk a lot about functional medicine today. Functional medicine is looking at causes in labs, for example, inflammation, putting together a process of healing through nutrition, supplementation, and lifestyle. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. But there are also wonderful explosions of knowledge in things like regenerative medicine, most commonly known as stem cell therapy. And these are the kinds of treatments that we offer here at Root Healing Wellness today. And we've treated over 50,000 patients. So, but all of this could not have happened unless I had 2 realizations in my last meditation retreat in South Korea. I'm going to stop the screen share just for a second so you can see me. You've been looking at that little picture for a while. So when I was in South Korea, the last time I was there was probably 8 years ago. And I had, in my last meditation retreat, I had 2 big realizations. One, I realized that I did not want to become a monk for the right reasons. I actually wanted to become a monk because I wanted to run away from suffering. So let me ask you, is there anybody out there, is there anybody that's figured out a way how to run away from suffering? If you have, please type in the answer because I want to know how to do that. But I realized that there is no escape from suffering. The solution is to turn and face it and then to do the right and make the right steps. Also, what I realized is nobody gets there alone. I can't just hide out in the mountains and escape from life. What I needed to do is create a community of support that could help me become the best me that I am. And I personally am a doctor, and that's my job. So I took those 2 realizations, and I knew that patients needed those also. They needed to understand and turn around and see, to face the true causes of their healthcare conditions. And at the same time, they needed the support. They needed that to get through a problem. How many of you are tired of 3 to 5 minutes from your doctor that just ends up being him looking at a computer screen coupled with a script, and that's your Band-Aid medication for the day? Most of you are tired of that kind of response. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen again, and we're going to give you some great content today. So chronic disease is by far the biggest health challenge we face. 1 in 2 Americans has a chronic disease. That's 50%. Many of you out there. 1 in 4 have multiple chronic diseases. 27% of kids, this is heartbreaking, now have a chronic disease, up from just 13% in 1994. So in 25 years, we've more than doubled, even in our children. Chronic disease is responsible for 70% out of every 10 deaths. Brain fog, how about that? What about this spark of personality? Remember when you were fun and you enjoyed life? Do you remember that time? Is that the person that you feel like you are now? But brain fog is this inability to focus, poor memory, functioning, and difficulty learning new things. Brain fog changes in mood, pain, and low energy all rob you of your personality spark. And the core cause in nearly every case is inflammation. How is our healthcare system addressing this? What is it doing? So I asked you earlier, is there anybody out there getting your inflammatory markers checked? Are there? So in your blood, you could get multiple markers for inflammation checked, but they don't check them. Sometimes on a cardiac patient, they might check your CRP, but there's no medication for inflammation they can give you long-term safely anyway. They can't just keep giving you an Advil every day hoping your inflammation goes down, because too many medications like that, eventually you'll die. So they don't even bother to check for one of the main things that we all agree is the cause of inflammation. How about another basic thing that we could talk about? How many of you out there among the participants would agree that having good gut bacteria is important for your digestive and immune health? I would say that probably all of you agree on that. And I would also tell you that every doctor agrees on that. But my question to you is, how many of you have ever been tested for good gut bacteria? Probably nobody. So what we see is a medical system that isn't looking for root causes at all and is basically looking for numbers they can adjust with Band-Aid medications. How about the food pyramid? Has that really helped you? Look at the bottom serving of carbs, 6 to 8 servings of carbs, okay? Let's imagine you had 6 or 11. Let's imagine you had 11 bowls of cereal a day, 11 bowls of Captain Crunch. Do you think that is healthy? Really? So this food pyramid came out and really started to be implemented and strongly pushed in the 80s. And what we had was this explosion of diabetes. We had a lot of refined sugars and processed carbs, and they reduced the fat content and increased the sugar content, and diabetes exploded. The nutrition that we're getting is not the nutrition that we need. You can even see when it comes to nutritional deficiencies, this is the percentage of the US population not meeting the very, very minimum, the RDA minimum. So vitamin E, 86%. The B vitamins, we're looking at 75%. That's 3 out of 4 people we can see are not meeting their basic requirements on basic supplementation. How about your health insurance? 70% increase in profits in 3 years. This is in 2013. How do you think they're doing now? We see people, for example, like the CEOs that are making $50,000 a day. That is their salary. I want to take a second to talk about health insurance, because we have this process of relying on health insurance and we think it's going to fix all our needs. So everybody out there, most of you should have a car, right? You all have a car, and therefore you have car insurance. I know I do. So what happens when you get into an accident? Your car insurance, it covers your accident. It covers your repairs. It's meant for catastrophic. But who covers the maintenance and well-being of your car? Does your insurance take care of that? It does not. What your insurance is set up to be is a process of catastrophic coverage, and that is also what our healthcare insurance has become. It's become a process of, once again, shots, pills, and surgery to work on catastrophic issues, not chronic disease, not inflammation. Prescription drugs cause over 128,000 deaths per year in America, another 200,000 deaths in Europe. The estimated total number of iatrogenic deaths, that is deaths induced inadvertently by a physician or surgeon or by medical treatment, this is deaths due to medicine, is 783,000. That's more than the total number of people that die from cancer. Second leading cause of death in America, by the way, death by medicine. Some people argue number one if you look at the statistics correctly. How about very commonly used things like cholesterol medications? I'm not saying cholesterol medications or all medications are bad. Some people very useful, some people necessary, but let's look at the facts. Lipitor, when it first came out, it had this very splashy ad. You see here 36% reduction in heart attack. 36%, that sounds amazing. It was the #1 drug prescribed at that time. But let's look at the reality. The median postponement of death is 3 to 4 days. So you take Lipitor for decades of your life and you get 3 to 4 days more of life. And you're still faced with the possible side effects: dementia, higher rates of diabetes, neuropathy, which is nerve damage in your arms and legs. How about the reality of the statistics? It's not 36%, that's what's called relative risk. When you look down at the fine print, it shows you 3% of patients taking a sugar pill or a placebo had a heart attack compared to 2% of patients taking Lipitor. That's an absolute risk difference of only 1%. So do you see how drug companies manipulate the data and what they're really interested in? After 4 studies, this is in 2010, with over 33,000 people, that's a large sample size, researchers concluded medications did not reduce heart disease despite lower blood pressure, lower blood sugar, lower cholesterol, nor a combination of these factors. In fact, the study revealed many devastating side effects, including increased risk for cardiovascular event. And you see that in the standard of care, they're not looking at inflammation at all, which is one of the main factors, by the way, and can be measured. Not being proactive. Would you say that this is you? I hope not. I know it's hot in Florida, so we want to walk our dog by car sometimes, but I hope that we're getting a little bit of movement. I would say, because I do like to ask my patients, I'll ask them, how many of you out there would say that you're proactive or Americans are proactive? When I ask Americans, everybody always says, no, Americans are reactive. It's funny, we think of ourselves as a reactive culture, but I would like to say that everybody on this webinar today, you are being very proactive. You are taking the first step to actually get help. You're taking the time to watch this webinar to get the information you need to make the right choices in your life. So I really applaud you for that. Oh, this is a wonderful testimonial by one of our patients, Forrest. She came to see us for high blood pressure, tachycardia, that's rapid heartbeat and palpitations. After being treated by us, all her issues were resolved. It also led significantly to reducing her anxiety and improving her overall health. She's very happy with this and she recommends this to her friends and family. So if you have high blood pressure medication that you'll take for the rest of your life, tachycardia, probable beta blocker rest of your life, palpitations, you're taking that beta blocker, and they're hoping that that's enough. Is that reducing the causes? Is that reducing, for example, in Forrest's case, she had inflammation, she had other nutritional deficiencies, she also had hormonal insufficiencies, she also had thyroid issues. And when all of these were addressed, her symptoms, which aren't the cause, they're like the fruit on the tree, they're not the roots. The fruit comes last. The fruits fell off because the roots were healed. So these kinds of experiences, if these are the things that you're looking for and you're having a hard time with, we will be offering a consultation later on. So a consultation, what that means is, in our practice, our first step is to kind of get to learn you and to have a little bit of personal contact, because what we do is personalized medicine. So what we're offering is a free consultation. That consultation offer is only good to the end of this webinar. And what we're trying to do is just try to find about 5 to 7 patients a week. We really don't want any more than that because we're a full practice. What we try to do is choose 5 to 7 patients that are really good patients that want to get the help when we talk to them. So our staff is going to be reaching out to you about consultations later on, and we'll be talking more about this in the future. What are the triggers of inflammation? Let's talk about that. 5 triggers of inflammation. You have foods. How many of you are eating foods that's bothering you and you know it? Do you really know if your foods are bothering you? Bugs, of course. You can have parasites. You can have bug bites, things that are attacking the body. Toxins. How many people are be riddled by toxins and you have any ideas, like heavy metals? Do you even know? Stress. Is stress a real condition that's actually affecting us much more because of things like COVID these days? The answer is yes. But how many of you are having your stress hormones like your cortisol tested, or even the time of day that you're most stressed could be related to your cortisol, or if you can't sleep. Hormones. Hormones are what we call the gas tank, the vitality of the body. There are very good solutions for keeping your hormone levels good without having to resort to hormone replacement therapy, because we're not big fans. They do have cancer risks. Look at these basic things that we do every day. In our water, we have a lot of fluoride. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but fluoride does have a toxic effect on the thyroid. Okay, bromide, used in all of these things here, and this is a neurotoxin. It's used in your furniture. How about MSG? People are worried and nervous about MSG, but it comes under so many names. You're getting bombarded by it and you don't even know. Things like just basically yeast extract, malt flavoring, things that are in most of the processed foods out there. The bugs in your digestive process. Do you know that the gut is the second brain? And actually many of the neurotransmitters, for example, serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter that makes you happy, a sense of joy, over 60% of that is actually made in the gut. It's not made in the brain. So when you're on antidepressants, it's not even trying to address the main area of serotonin. Once again, I asked you before, how many of you know if you even have things like good gut bacteria? You don't even know something that we take to be so basic to our overall health. And all of those things we like to measure. We like to do something called test, not guess. Leaky gut. How does leaky gut even work? A lot of you have heard of leaky gut at this process, at this point in time in your life. But what we get is you get factors in your bloodstream. You know, stress will throw off your cortisol levels, hormone levels, toxins, food particles, drugs, pathogens. And with that inflammation, it creates a porousness in the lining of your intestines, and you start to have spill out into your bloodstream, and you start to get food intolerances and immune system issues like autoimmune disease. What are the good current standard of care treatments for food intolerances, autoimmune disease? I would argue none. The solution to autoimmune disease are things like steroids and immunosuppressants. The possible result of that is weakened immune system, more susceptible to COVID. Also, multiple autoimmunities, because once you have one autoimmune disease, you have an 80% chance of multiple. And at the same time, less immune system means you have a higher cancer risk. Already close to 600,000 people get cancer a year in America alone, every year. Inflammatory bowel disease, a growing problem, which is ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. This is up to 0.5%. This is amazing. So it was an issue that was never really a problem in the past, but it's really, really growing. And when you start to look at the countries that have the most of it, look how much yellow is here in America. Okay, and this is the growth just in the last 40 years. Why is that? It's because of the things that we are eating. Michelle, I see that you raised your hand. I'm happy to answer your question. When you raise your hand, what happens is I have to unmute you, and that causes some confusion because you're going to be speaking. So what we ask everybody to do when you have questions, go ahead, put it in the chat box. Dr. Beverly is monitoring that, and she's going to stop me and ask me your question. So Michelle, please type your question into the chat box, and I'm happy to answer your question. I'm looking forward to seeing that, okay? But I just can't unmute everybody, so please just don't raise your hand. Leaky gut, what does it affect? It affects everything. It affects your brain. You can have depression, anxiety, ADHD, the skin, acne, rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, the thyroid, Hashimoto's, Graves, the colon, constipation, diarrhea, adrenal fatigue, joint pain, sinus and mouth issues. It can be linked to all of those things. Gluten sensitivity. A lot of the people these days, they say, why are there so many gluten-free products? Should I be gluten-free? What's the point of all this gluten process? And doctors will argue that there's really a very small percentage of celiacs, and all this gluten nonsense is nonsense. But I would say that doctors are looking at what's called an IgE reaction. For example, that's called an allergy. If you have allergies to peanuts, you eat peanuts, you could die. You have allergies to gluten, you eat gluten, you have celiac disease, autoimmune disease. But we want to talk about IgG reactions. IgG reactions are delayed sensitivity reactions. You could eat things with gluten in it, and it could bother you later, and you won't even know. And some of the reason for that is the gluten, and also the fact that a lot of our products have become processed and changed and the fact that we're spraying them to hell and back with all kinds of things like glyphosate, basically Roundup. So we see that gluten sensitivity can lead to anemia, celiac, diabetes, thyroid, fibromyalgia, lupus, gut infection, skin issues, also psychological and mood issues. Inflammation in your brain. So if you have kind of issues with headaches, or if you have issues with brain fog, or you're losing that spark, is anybody asking or talking to you about this inflammation that could be in your brain? It could be disrupting receptor sites, keeping chemicals from going to where they need to be. We have different kinds of brain waves. When you're in a struggle process, you have beta brain waves, and your cortisol, your norepinephrine on the rise, and they will cause you to have this fight or flight response. When you start to release, you have these alpha brain waves, and you have nitric oxide that starts to improve circulation. This flow state that we talk about, when you're kind of in the flow or in the groove, you have these theta gamma brain waves, and you start to get good production and release of dopamine, endorphins, those kinds of neurotransmitters. And when you're in the delta, the recovery stage, this is when you're in deep, deep sleep, by the way. I know many of you out there are not getting good sleep, might not even getting the basic sleep where you're actually falling into basic release or flow. So delta is where you start to get serotonin, oxytocin release, and this is where you start to get that sense of well-being, of healing that happens at night. Inflammatory symptoms, depression. People have a tendency, doctors have a tendency to just kind of downplay this and say it's just all in your head. Just take this Prozac or this Zoloft. And what that does is ends up becoming another drug that you take the rest of your life. But what if the reason is that you're inflamed? What if it's inflammation in the brain, inflammation in the gut, and there's a physical cause for depression that can be fixed? Nervousness and emotional, that could be inflammation, also could be hormonal. Headaches. How many of you suffer from headaches? Some symptoms, for example, headaches become so common that people think are normal. If I were to ask you, are headaches normal? Many people have a tendency to say yes. And I would say, well, I don't get headaches. Does that make me abnormal? Let's think about it. Headaches are very common. They're not normal. And headaches are always there for a reason. So when you take your Advil, even if your headache feels better, it comes back in a week, couple weeks, whatever. The cause is not taken care of, so you just end up getting headaches more and more, and that cause grows. Autoimmune diseases, over 100 autoimmune diseases now. That means the body is attacking itself. And we have 50 million Americans with autoimmune disease, an explosion of autoimmune disease now. Thyroid autoimmune disease like Hashimoto's and Graves. Any of you out there with thyroid problems, I need you to know that 80 to 90% of you, that's almost all of you, even if your thyroid issue, you think, okay, I'm taking levothyroxine, I'm taking Synthroid, my doctor tells me I'm hypothyroid. 80 to 90% of you are not hypothyroid. What you are is autoimmune, Hashimoto's or Graves. That means the body's destroying thyroid tissue. It's not the same as a thyroid underperforming. Joint pain, rheumatoid arthritis, muscle pain, fibromyalgia, skin issues, psoriasis, eczema, lung issues, you're having COPD and difficulty breathing, nerve issues, neuropathy, loss of feeling in your hands and legs or pain, GI issues, celiac, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, diabetes, blood, leukemia, lupus, brain, MS, autism. All of these autoimmune diseases are the body attacking itself and the root cause not being addressed. So inflammation can start with hormones. Hormones affect everything. They affect bone metabolism, the immune system, brain, gastrointestinal function, liver, gallbladder, growth, fat burning. How many of you are having a difficult time with fat burning right now because of COVID? Your patterns are disrupted, you're unable to go outside, and you're starting to put in that COVID weight. And even now that you're trying to get a hold of that and you're like, I'm moving more, I'm eating better, but why is it that I can't lose the weight? It's because of things like your hormones, your cortisol, your thyroid. Nobody's talking to you about those basic constituents of health that can be improved. Oh, improper stomach acid. This is something we really take for granted too. You can have inflammation in your gut. You get acid reflux. And what do? They give you, for example, like a Nexium, proton pump inhibitor, an antacid, and you end up taking that for 10, 20, 30 years. Now that's going to start being not the standard of care. They can't give you that long term because they're having too many cases of kidney failure. Okay? The body is not designed to take any drug for a decade plus. If you look on the bottle, it always says take 1 to 2 weeks and then ask your doctor. But do we really talk to our doctors about changing our medications every 2 weeks? We actually don't. It becomes an auto refill that we just do all the time, and medications aren't reduced, they're just actually increased. If you're on 5 or more medications, you have a 100% chance of side effects. That's called polypharmacy syndrome. 90% of thyroid symptoms among women is an autoimmune disease. Hashimoto's and Graves', they're not thyroid problems, they're problems of the immune system. What can that lead to? It can lead to cold hands and feet. It can lead to tiredness and sluggishness. Is this how you feel in the morning when you get up? Or is this how you feel oftentimes in that kind of 4 o'clock crash? Or maybe when you come home from work, all you can do is get a glass of wine in you to just get the rest of the evening done? Hair loss and thinning. Constipation. Is this the face you have to make to just do something as simple that we take for granted when we're younger, like move our bowels? It could be maybe it's not the food that we're eating. Our microbiome could be off. It could be your thyroid's off, but there are reasons. Weight gain. Thyroid and inflammation definitely are involved in weight. It's not just how much you move and how much you eat. I want to give you a little visual representation of 4 different kinds of bodies. We have the adrenal body. The adrenal body puts on weight in the lower half of the body, but also their gut. Their cortisol is off, and you can start to see weight gain there. That means your adrenals are fatigued. The ovaries, meaning you're having hormonal imbalances, for example, estrogen, testosterone, you start to get this kind of pear-shaped, saddlebag kind of look. Thyroid issues will have you put on weight everywhere. Liver issues, you start to get the pot belly that you see when you're having liver detoxification issues, and everything that we take, and we take a lot of medications, has to be detoxified through the liver. Mood swings, also due to hormones. We need to stop inflammation now. It is one of the main causes of all disease. Oh, this is a testimonial from Joan. She asked if you're the kind of person who shudders when they hear the side effects of pharmaceutical medication. Well, she was definitely like that. Wonderful patient, very health-minded. She came to see us because she had frozen shoulders. She couldn't lift her arm. Her knee had arthritis. Her hormones were off. She had lymphedema, and she suffered it for years. It turned into neuropathy. So in her head, she was still young. She's like, I'm this young, vibrant lady that I always remembered, and I just want to be active and enjoy my time. But she was basically homebound. But her body told her a different story about her age. So she's working with us, and she's done great. All of those symptoms has improved, and she's very happy with us. And these are all things that we've been able to take care of with patients. So what I'm telling you is, for patients out there, if you're unsatisfied, if you're getting healthcare results that are unsatisfactory, I would say that every one of you out there is. There's no reason for you to be listening to this seminar if your health is perfect and you don't have any issues. You're honest about that, and you're also proactive because you're coming out to actually take the time to listen. That is why what we're offering is a free consultation just for those few patients that we're really looking to accept, because we do accept a limited number. And that consultation offer will only be available to the end of this webinar. After this webinar, we just won't have the spaces to give it to patients. You don't have to do it right now. We're just talking about scheduling it. And our staff, Dr. Beverly, and my other staff, they're going to be reaching out to you soon. So Dolores, I see that you have your hand raised. So can you please just type your question in your chat? We had one other person earlier that had a question, and they never got around to typing it in their chat. I'm here to answer all your questions, and I want to do that for you. I want to make sure you feel heard. You deserve to feel heard, and you deserve to have your specific questions answered. So please, just go down to the bottom of your screen, click the chat feature, and just type in your question. Dr. Beverly's going to read that out for me, and I'm going to make sure I answer that for both you and also the other person that asked earlier, and anybody else that has a question.
Excuse me, Dr. Jean. So the other person was having audio issues, which we're trying to help her with. But Sandra was wanting to get some more information on the consultation itself.
Okay, so a consultation, what that is that's a conversation with me or Dr. Beverly, and what we need to do is we need to get your health history. So Sandra, if you have a thyroid issue and a hormonal issue, is that the same as someone who has diabetes? It's not, right? So what we need to do is determine what is your condition. So what we're trying to do is basically two things during a consultation. We're trying to determine, do you have conditions that we've treated before? Do we feel like we can help you? If you have a condition, something that we've never treated or that we don't understand, then what we will do, I promise you, is we will try to find a better resource for you. We'll refer you to somebody else that can help you. And also, what we need to do is we need to find out if we're a good fit. I think of consultations like an interview. I see Christine, you also raised your hand. Christine, I'm so sorry. Could you put your question in the chat box? That's the only way for us. I just can't unmute everybody. It'll be too many voices. But we're also thinking of consultations like an interview. You're interviewing us. You're saying, do these doctors know what they're talking about? Do they have a good solution for me? And at the same time, we're interviewing you. We're trying to determine, are you a health-minded person that really wants a real result? We're not going to offer you any kind of magic pill that you can find on the internet that's going to cure 20 years of disease with this one little pop. That is not medicine. Everything that I'm showing you in this webinar is talking about causes. What we want to do is talk about causes, find out what are your causes. Causes determine treatment, okay? So please put your questions in the chat box. Thank you. I'm happy to get to all of them. And we're going to talk more about the consultations as we move forward.
Okay, excuse me, Dr. Jean, we have Kathleen asking if we can help out or how we help out with fatty liver.
Kathleen, that's a very good question. We've worked with a lot of fatty liver. So why do people have fatty liver? Fatty liver is a blood sugar regulation issue. Blood sugar regulation can be due to many different things. So it's called glyconeogenesis, when the liver actually starts to turn excess glucose into fat and it stores it in the liver. So let's say you eat something. Let's say you eat a big bowl of pasta. What happens is your blood sugar spikes. We're not working on the farm these days. We're not getting that pasta burned off. We're just sitting in front of our computers. And then what happens is the liver's like, oh my God, there's so much glucose out there. We're not doing anything. So it starts to pull it out and store it actually as fat in the liver. That's the mechanism of fatty liver. Of course, you can have complications like hormones and cortisol and things like that that make it harder. So do we work on it? The answer is yes. Can we do a liver detox process? The answer is yes. How can we verify that fatty liver is improved? We can do labs to show you the improvement. It can be an objective measure, not just, wow, I feel better, but wow, look at my labs are improved. Your doctor's like, whoa, you have fatty liver disease. And you're like, what do I do? And they're like, I don't know, eat better, exercise. And then that still doesn't solve it because everybody has different causes. And then what we do is once we start to make you feel better, we also check to show you that that's improved. Okay.
Okay, and Dr. Jean, another question. Sandra says, despite living a pretty healthy life, she's experiencing pain, numbness, and tingling on her hands, arms, and feet.
That's a very important thing for us to talk about, by the way. Numbness and tingling always comes from somewhere. You could have physical nerve blocks, something in your spine, something in your neck. But if you're having it in all your hands and feet and your legs and your arms, that would have to be pretty severe spinal degeneration. Sometimes it's going to be things like neuropathy. It could be due to medications. It could be due to things like diabetes. Honestly, it could be due to autoimmune diseases like MS. So what they're doing, MS, you know, by the way, is lesions in the brain or spine. Those lesions have to be 20% before they're even visible on a scan. So doctors will just say, well, you got all this numbness and tingling. I don't know what to do. They don't give you anything. And then when it gets really bad and they can actually see a lesion on the brain, then they start to go with MS medications, which are notoriously not successful in reversing MS. Their goal is not to reverse MS. Their goal is just to kind of slow it down. Okay? So what you need is for us to determine the causes. That symptom alone is not enough information. That's why we have a consultation, so we can find out what the reason is, okay? Great. What we try to do is personalized, predictive, preventative, and participatory. How many of you are looking for a healthcare experience where you're a member, a part? Someone's giving you the attention to detail that you deserve to bring you along, and also giving you accountability, because that's what we try to do here. A lot of you, you'll go and your doctor will take your labs and he'll say, well, they look normal. Maybe your cholesterol is a little high, and that's the only conversation you really have. How can your lab test be normal, but you still feel sick? So what we see and what we like to talk about are what's called a functional range. This is a healthy range. When you're at the extremes of the standard range, you're already sick. For example, if you have glucose, blood sugar, at 125, they call you a pre-diabetic. Okay, what is the treatment for prediabetes? Nothing. Okay, so once you're 126, you're a diabetic. And that means lifelong medications. One number, 1 point determines lifelong medications. Would you say that that range needs to be narrower and there should be some preventative actions that we can take besides just waiting to lifelong medications? How about things like anemia? Doctor says, oh, okay, you look good, blood numbers look fine. What if you're on the very low end, 1 point from anemia? Does that mean you're not anemic? No, you're still in need. So that's why we look at a functional range, and we want to test and we want to get to something before it becomes a problem, if possible.
Excuse me, Dr. Jean. We have Ollie, who says they've been on Cymbalta for years, gained 50 pounds, now has high blood pressure, sleep apnea, nose, hands, feet, always cold, plantar fasciitis, kind of desperate. She's saying, can you help this person?
All those conditions, the answer is yes. Those conditions we still need to solve. And let me ask you, are you satisfied with Cymbalta? Is it really taking care of your issues? Is it really? You've been on it that many decades. If it's going to work, shouldn't it have worked by now? It's definitely making it harder for your liver to detox things. And now you have this weight gain. Not only this weight gain, you have all of these other symptoms that have kind of snowballed and become an issue in your life. And as they're getting worse, you're not having anybody speak to you about the cause or trying to reverse them. They're just trying to manage one symptom while another symptom comes up. And then when we start to take all these medications, we need to start to look at, are these side effects causing the other symptoms? So for you, we definitely need to have a conversation. So you should sign up for a consultation. What that means is you just type in, I want a consultation, or say consultation, and Dr. Beverly or another one of my staff, we also have Suzanne on the phone. What she'll do is she'll go ahead and reach out and she'll find a good time for you, and we'll find a time to speak. Because you are being misdiagnosed and undertreated. There's no way that your symptoms are going to continue to progress if you're getting better. What you are is getting worse, and you're not getting the attention you deserve. So we've treated patients with all of those conditions. We need to find out more. We need to find out what's going on with you. So what defines success? How can we get successful? How about supporting detoxification pathways, identifying food sensitivities, identify and repair hormone imbalances? Do you have infections, yeast, parasites, bacteria? 10% of my population has parasites and they don't even know. Every time we test them, 10% are walking around with something they don't even know. I've had 5 patients in the last couple of years that have had flesh-eating bacteria in their bowels. Yep, flesh-eating bacteria. It's okay because in the stomach, it's innocuous, just gives you a little diarrhea. But is there a problem if they have a cut on their arm and they happen to get poop on their arm? There is a problem. So we were actually able to take those patients and actually destroy the bacteria naturally without having to resort to antibiotics, and we could save their gut. What if we could resolve gut dysbiosis? We could improve vitamin deficiencies. You're taking all these supplements right now, but you're like, my levels never go up. I'm taking B, I'm taking iron, I'm taking D, I'm taking calcium. Why is it that I'm always testing low? It's because you're not able to absorb it. Your gut is not able to process it. We want to correct inflammation, eliminate leaky gut, restore gut barriers. This is how we measure success. We like to talk about what's called the 5 pillars of health: digestive health and detox, nutrition, hormones, exercise, and brain health. How many of you would think that your life would improve if your digestive health improved? if your nutrition was better and you could actually absorb it, if your hormones were balanced, you had more energy, if you knew how to exercise efficiently and it wasn't such a chore, if your brain was no longer foggy and you started to get that spark back. Hey, that's me. So I want to tell you one more story because it is important for me in my little journey of how I started to really be a stronger doctor. So this is a picture of me, my beautiful wife, Serena, and my daughter, Alina. Alina is actually 3, but this is a picture of her first Halloween. We all went as a pumpkin patch that year. So I'm going to stop the screen share just for a second because I don't want you to see a blown up picture of my face for 2 minutes. So I'll just let you see this for a second. We'll get the backdrop of the water. But I want to tell you this other story for a reason because it's particularly pivotal, important to me. I want to talk about something called a crossroads moment. So I told you earlier that in my last meditation experience in South Korea, about 8 years ago or something like that, I had, maybe it was 9 years ago, 10 years ago, I had this very clear realization, 2 basic things, that I can't run from suffering and I can't go it alone. I learned those 2 things. What I didn't tell you was at the time I had this beautiful woman in my life, Serena, whom you saw the picture of, and we were dating. We were dating about 4 years. When I first met her, I was still thinking about becoming a monk. It was very serious in my brain. I thought about that for like 20 years of my life. And when I met her, I told her, I was like, I don't want you to get too fond of me. I might become a monk. And she thought I was crazy. She's like, oh my God, what kind of pickup line is this? I like this guy. So for some reason, she thought that was endearing, but I wasn't a pickup line at all. That was just the truth. And we dated for about 4 years, and that's a long time. That's a long time to keep a lovely woman at bay. So what happened was in the temple that day, I had those 2 realizations, and Serena, she had just had enough. It was just too much time. She had lost her faith in me. And she called me, and she broke up with me. But she called me literally 2 days after I had this realization that what I wanted to do was to be the best doctor that I can, to embrace life, embrace the suffering, and to have a partnership with her and to help others. So I left the temple that day and I went and I had to go through this process of trying to win her back. And she wasn't having it. She gave me a really hard time, by the way. She really put me through my paces as I had to work through this process of trust for her to realize that I was serious. I tell you this story because that particular story for me outlines a very important thing in my life. It outlines what I call a crossroads moment. This means an experience where your life can go one way or the other, and you know very clearly that your life is going to be very different dependent upon the choices that you make. So I think everybody here, all of you out there right now in the audience, you are at a crossroads moment. You're at this moment in life. We've already had multiple questions about people that are suffering. I haven't been able to get help with these conditions. I see my health spiraling. You're saying, can you help me? You are at this point where you're going to have to make a choice. Do I try something new? Do I try to get to a root cause? Or do I keep taking Cymbalta? How many more decades do you need to take that same medication and expect a different result? This crossroads moment, what we're trying to do is I'm trying to help you make the right choice. So I want you to take a second for me. I want you to take a second and let's say your life changes and you start to improve. Let's kind of picture the look on our on our neighbors' faces when they see how much better we look. We've lost some weight. We have energy and vibrance in our face. And they say, wow, what are you doing? Let's take a second to kind of hear the excitement in their voice as they're like, wow, you look great. Or let's feel the confidence that's in your chest arise as you start to step into the life that you've really always wanted to live. Isn't it exhausting just getting by? Don't you want to have some way to thrive in this life? Don't you think that there's more for you than just waiting to the end? I think that there is for sure, and that's why that you're listening today. So I want you to ask yourself, How would life be if I were able to turn on my brain again, have more energy, correct my health issues? How has my life been affected? What have I not been able to do? How about my relationships? Am I unable to participate in my relationships, the most important things in my life, like I want to because of my health? Am I unable to work like I want to or need to because of my health? How about my ability to enjoy life? Life, I think, is honestly really a very simple thing. I think it really comes down to two things. I think one, we should take care of each other. I hope we can all agree on that. Okay. Two, I think we're supposed to enjoy the ride. If you're not enjoying your life, what are we doing here? I want to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to really take care of our problems? So when we do a consultation, what we do is we ask you some questions. It's kind of like an interview. You want to check us out, but we also want to check you out. So I'm going to ask you all of these questions. All of you, I'm going to ask you this question when we're on our consultation. I'm going to ask you, are you an A, B, or C student? And I'm going to tell you what that means. An A student is actually kind of rare. They're self-motivated. They just need some information and a little bit of guidance, and they're just going to excel. There's actually not that many of them. A B student is most patients. Most of us are B students. We have a genuine desire to improve. We want it. What we haven't had is the proper information and the proper guidance. And with that information and guidance, we will do well. What we are not looking for are C students. So C students are procrastinators. They're always waiting for that magical time in the future when the stars align and everything's going to be perfect, and then finally it's just going to resolve by itself. How many decades are you willing to let your life pass you by because you're a C student? C students are not what we want. So we're looking for A and B students, and we're looking for only about like 5 to 7 maybe a week. That's all we really take on because of our schedules. And when we talk about consultations and patients say, well, what do you do? How can you help us? So we try to find out a personalized process to help each and every one of you. And that process will range between, for example, like $200 for very simple things. It could go all the way up to $10,000 for very difficult, complicated people. So if you're a patient who doesn't even have access to $200, then honestly, maybe working with us is just not the right solution for you. And you need to get yourself together a little bit more, okay?
Hey, Dr. Jean.
Yes.
So just wanted to shout out to Dolores, Robin, Ali, Toya, and Alita. They have all signed up for consultations.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I'm so excited to be talking to all of you soon. That's great. Congratulations. That's the first step in taking that right step to health. Mm-hmm. Wonderful Chinese proverb here. Tell me, and I may remember, honestly, 98% of students, 98% of people who are listening to this webinar, that's almost all of you, are going to forget what you learned in 1 week. 1 week later, you're going to forget. Show me, and I will remember, but how about involve me? How about this participation and collaboration that we're looking for? And I will understand and I will become the me that I want to be. What everybody needs is a mentor. This is Robert. He was a type 2 diabetic. He had burning neuropathy. His toes were purple. Actually, when I saw him, his toes were so dark. I was treating his wife, and I saw his toes because he came to me. We're in Florida. He's wearing sandals. And I was like, oh, my God, Robert, you're going to get those chopped off. Those are terrible. And he took that seriously. We started working on him, and now his feet look the normal color. But we also did things like put him on a cleanse. He lost 23 pounds in 17 days. His inflammation went down. His sugar level went way down. It was 150. It went down to 95. He feels great, and we have a great relationship with him. And we could actually save his feet because he was on the way to amputations. So these are the kinds of results that we can try to perform for you once we get to know you. The first step is a consultation because we don't know you yet. So what I'm going to offer you is 2 choices. Hopefully so far that everybody's learned something. Can we agree that everybody out there has learned something? There's been some information that you didn't know that you picked up on today. I hope that I've been able to do that for you. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with you, we've already talked about a consultation, but I want to give you a little bit more of an explanation of what that is. And what you have is you have 2 choices. What you have is you have the gift of opportunity. You have a chance, a choice to do something different. Let me tell you the truth. If you do nothing, it will only get worse. Let's be very honest with that. How many of you have had a chronic disease after the age of 40 and it just suddenly cleared up? It's funny, it doesn't work that way, does it? You hit 40, you get a disease. If you don't work on it to improve it, it gets worse. It doesn't suddenly clear up because our body ages. Your best chance of improvement is right now. It's not 10 years from now. It's going to be much harder. Your health is your best investment because health is happiness. The better you feel, the happier you're going to be. And we are definitely not going to waste your time or your money. That's why we're offering you a complimentary consultation, but that consultation is only complimentary till the end of this webinar broadcast. So what we're offering is, as I've explained, a consultation. The total value, like after this webinar, we're going to speak a little bit more. I know that Suzanne and Dr. Beverly are working on go ahead and fulfilling those that are looking for consultations. We're trying to put you on our schedule now. When we do a consultation, we would normally charge $287. So if people want a consultation in the future, we might be able to give you one. You're just going to have to pay a regular charge for it. The consultation charge is $287. But if you sign up, it doesn't mean we have to do it today, but there are actually a couple slots, I think, with me today. But what we need you to do is go ahead and sign up for that consultation today. We do have limited times on our schedule. We're looking for A and B students, not C students. Me, a procrastinator? Oh, I'll prove you wrong someday. Just you wait and see. So I hope that this is not the mantra that you live by, okay? So what we have is, I'm going to try to do my best now to take and field questions. We still have people out there I know that are looking to get their questions answered and also looking to schedule their consultation. So we have Dr. Beverly and we have Suzanne out there right now, and what they're doing is they're out there scheduling your consultation. So I'm going to answer any questions that you have as we do this process, okay? So I'm going to take it off the screen share. This is just our phone number if you wanted to call into our office, but the chat feature is really easy and we can take care of that now. I'm going to stop the share. I'm just going to show you my face. So what I want to do is, if any of you have questions out there that you haven't had answered, please type them in and I'm happy to answer those. And also, I'm going to tell you some more stories about things that we've been able to treat. That way you can get a little bit more of a glimpse of patients that we've treated in the past to see what kinds of things that we normally do. And I'm going to give time for my staff to go ahead and for those that are looking for a consultation to go ahead and sign them up, okay? So if you have questions, please ask your questions. I'll tell you a couple of stories. I remember there's been a lot of really shocking things that I've experienced in treating 50,000, 60,000 plus patients. I remember once I had this younger girl, she's only like 21 years old, and she had a thyroid issue, and she didn't know that she had Hashimoto's. Her doctor just gave her levothyroxine, said your thyroid's not working right. And she'd been taking it, and she was feeling terrible. She was overweight, she was sluggish. And then what happened was I was treating her mom, and she came in with her mom, and she told me she had thyroid issues. I was like, that doesn't sound right. You're 21 years old. Did they check your antibodies? Do you know if you have an autoimmune disease? Because most thyroid issues are autoimmune, 80 to 90%. It's like, no, no one never talked to me about this. I was like, let me run a blood test for you. So we ran the blood test, and what happened? Yes, she's definitely Hashimoto's. Antibodies very high. But not only that, she had a CRP that was off the charts. It's actually like, I think it was like 35. The norm, CRP is one of the markers for inflammation. It's called C-reactive protein. So this is one of the things that we check with all of our patients when we do blood tests. It should be a standard, but it's funny, doctors don't check for inflammation. Once again, they don't have a drug to give you. How would you feel if you went to a doctor's office and they checked inflammatory markers and were like, oh my God, you got a lot of inflammation. And you're like, what do I do? And they said, well, I don't know. That really wouldn't make you feel very good at all. Probably would make you lose some confidence in the experience. But her inflammation, CRP, we like it less than 1. Your doctor would like it less than 3. That's called a standard range. She was in the 30s. So she had tremendous risks, even just being 21 years of age. So we were able to work with her and get her CRP within the norm. But yes, it took time. We had to look at food sensitivity. She was eating things that were bothering her. Her hormones were off. She had terrible periods and mood swings and complications that were affecting inflammation. Her cortisol and sleep rhythm was all off, affecting her ability to repair. Her thyroid was off. All of these things had to be addressed so she could get the right result. Does that sound like the kind of medicine that you want? Do you want someone to really test, not guess, and know the causes of your problems? Do you want someone to spend the time with you to really understand your case and give you the guidance necessary for you to improve? We want patients, we kind of think of you like training wheels. I want you to be able to ride your bike without us. Remember when you were younger, I remember I had a bike and I had training wheels and I was a little uncomfortable on them. And then when my dad took them off, I remember him kind of pushing me and I thought he was running behind me and I was all wobbly. But at some point I was wobbly and I've been going for a while and I just turned my head back and I remember that my dad wasn't even holding me. So the training wheels giving you the knowledge, the guidance, the way forward is the process of getting this basic work done to help you ride the bike by yourself. Okay. As Sandra asked that if we're available later, I just have a couple spots actually I've scheduled for today. Not many. I just have a couple that I can actually take a consultation. I don't know if Suzanne's already filled those, so that's unclear. So Suzanne's working through and Dr. Beverly's working through the consultation process with you now. She wants to make sure that everybody out there gets a time that works within their schedule. And we need to see all of you within a week. If it's after a week, 98% of you are going to forget all of this. And at the same time, we're just busy. We just have limited options out there for patients. That's why we're trying to work with those that really wanted the A and B students is what we're trying to find, okay? Any other questions out there? Something else that I can answer for somebody? Okay. Beverly, are we still working through the consultation process? You still see some people that we need to kind of reach out to?
Yes, I believe we're still working with a few people.
Okay, good. So I'm going to tell some more stories to make sure that those people have the time to get their consultation scheduled. I want them to qualify for this complimentary consultation, and we're only going to allow that to the end of this speaking process. So for the next 15 minutes or so. Let's think of other patients that have had very complicated and interesting results with us. We've actually had so many. I like to talk about autoimmune disease a lot because one, we treat it really well. It's an epidemic in America, and oh, diverticulitis. Okay, Allie, let's talk about diverticulitis. Yes, it is a process of inflammation, but not only that. So diverticulitis, so in your large intestine, you get pockets. And in these pockets, little bits of undigested food will get stuck and it'll cause inflammation and you'll have this terrible pain in the lower left side of your intestines. And it can get so bad that you got to go to the hospital, they got to do appendicitis, they got to do antibiotics. If it's really bad, they'll have to start cutting out your colon. Okay, so how can you prevent that? That's a very good question. Or how can you repair that? That's a very good question because they just keep giving you antibiotics after antibiotics and that doesn't do anything to repair the pockets. Then they tell you to stop doing things like eat seeds and things like that, small things that can get caught in the pockets. So what about first reducing the infection naturally, not having to take antibiotics? That's if you have an acute flare-up. Then two, what about reducing the inflammation? Okay. So it's not so inflamed, and so your intestines aren't starting to get these big pockets. And three, what about actually repairing the gut lining? Yes, repairing the gut lining is the real solution because then those pockets start to fill up and food will get caught in them less. Is it true that you have to stay away from things like nuts and seeds in the beginning because you have pockets? The answer is yes. You have to repair. Antibiotics aren't repairing anything. How do you repair the gut lining? First, we test it. That's called a SIG-A. A SIG-A is a number that designates what is the health, the mucosal health of your intestines, that intestinal barrier. And then we can give you things to repair that. For example, a very common thing that's used that's really good for that are things like L-glutamine, okay? But it has to be much more complicated than just taking L-glutamine. But what we can also do is test again to show you that that has been improved. You can see it on the lab. Not only like, oh, I haven't gotten diverticulitis in a while, but you can see and have some confidence that there's been some help there, okay? I hope that answers your question about diverticulitis. I'm sure that's more information than you've ever been given by another doctor about diverticulitis, but that's the reality of it.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Jean, Sandra, and Sharon have committed to consultations.
Oh, that's great. All right, Sandra and Sharon, that's exciting. We'll be talking to you very soon. So I'm very excited to get to know you. So the consultations will be split up between me and Dr. Beverly. You get to see Dr. Beverly also here on the screen. She's a very talented doctor. There's actually 4 doctors here at our clinic, and we treat literally hundreds of people every week. And we're very happy with all the wonderful things we've been able to do for people. So Dr. Beverly will be on the call with some of you. And the reason for that is just because our schedules are just too busy. We see and we treat all of our patients together, which means we have a team approach. We talk about all of our patients every week. Why is it better to have a team than to have one person? Well, in our clinic, we have 4 doctors, right? You got 4 very talented minds, really puzzle solving, very difficult patients. Is 4 better than 1? Yes, it is. So what we do is we take all that brain power and all that case experience and we really dive in. So I hope you're getting a gist of what we do. We solve puzzles. You are sick. You don't know why. We need to find out why. We need to treat those root causes. We need to teach you how to live your life in a way that you won't get sick. This is our goal. And everybody on staff is very passionately dedicated to making that goal a reality for all of you. Okay, great. All right, so I think most of us have went ahead and been scheduled for the consultations that we were looking for. So I'm just gonna sign off. I'm not gonna turn it off in case Suzanne or Dr. Beverly is still working on a couple of people, but I'm gonna say goodbye right now. It was really wonderful. I had a great time speaking to everybody, and I look forward to speaking to all of you soon. All right, you take care. God bless.